call in Senators Barry Ward and Senator Siri Kearney. Senator Ward, you're going first. It's 4 minutes, 2 and 2.
2 and 2.
Is that agreed? Agreed. Senator Ward.
Minister, thanks for coming. This is an important issue. This morning I stood in the rain outside the Criminal Courts of Justice with my colleagues at the Criminal Bar to demonstrate the importance of this issue. The reality is that cuts were made to the criminal legal aid scheme in the aftermath of the financial emergency in this country. Nobody had a difficulty with those cuts. They were taken in greater measure than many sectors, but barristers and solicitors who work under the criminal legal aid scheme accepted that they were necessary. They have not been restored. We have been raising this issue for a long number of years now. This year there was a 10% restoration, which still leaves the figures that barristers are being paid at figures that are 20 years old relative to today. This is a really important issue, and there is a single unfairness in the fact that in reality criminal practitioners are the last ones to have their fees restored, and there is a real danger that this will actually affect the administration of justice, because I speak to colleagues all the time at the bar, particularly junior colleagues, who are choosing not to practice criminal law because they cannot make a living at it. It is unsustainable to expect them to work in the district court for €27, for example, and that could be the only fee they get in a whole day, and they might have to drive some distance to go and earn that fee and spend more money on petrol or diesel to do it. It is not sustainable, and it will have a knock-on impact on the entirety of our criminal justice system, which will be seen in a decade from now when nobody is practicing criminal law and we don't achieve the standards of representation that we expect from that sector, and that will result in delays for victims, miscarriages of justice and all kinds of other knock-on problems. There is a reasonable request from the Bar of Ireland and other criminal practitioners now that the state would simply not give them extra money but put them back to where they were.
Senator Siri Kearney.
Minister, the fact is that the criminal legal bar has a greater proportion of women working in it than any other area of law. The fact is, it's the most poorly paid of across all legal sectors in our society. So I believe that there is a fundamental injustice in that, and that what women are supposed are left to the side and will tolerate and will take on whatever is going. The criminal bar is fundamental to our constitution. It is the place where heinous crimes are tried. It is the place where the standards of our society on what is acceptable and what is not acceptable are actually tried. That is the place where people can be accused in the wrong and need good legal representation to ensure that our state is not guilty of miscarriages of justice. We've had a funeral over last weekend of the last man hung in the state, and it was a miscarriage of justice in that instance. We need a constant representation, because the criminal courts are where we have disproportionately high number of people from socially deprived areas represented. The least we might do is to ensure that none of them are accused in the wrong. Just because they're from impoverished communities doesn't mean that they fall prey, and that's not being a do-gooder. That's about abiding by the constitution of our republic and ensuring that no citizen is at risk of being accused in the wrong, and that all citizens are protected under the criminal justice laws of our society and of our state. We need to ensure that that crimes are prosecuted properly and fully with the full rigour of the law, but that also that those of us, any of us who could be accused of the wrong in the morning, have very good legal representation. I was called to the bar in 2012. Of the 120 people that were called to the bar over that July, only 2 of them are remaining practicing in criminal law. Those 2, one is a man and the other a woman. So we have at least one of each. But there is an appalling misrepresentation or injustice being done on the criminal bar here by the failure to restore their payments.
I'd like to thank the senators for raising this important matter, and I acknowledge both of your passions for and your work on this issue. I would first like to reiterate my own and Minister McEntee's appreciation of the important role played by barristers and solicitors in the administration of criminal justice, and the important role that women play in this sector, as Senator Siri Kearney has pointed out. I'm aware of today's withdrawal of services and further proposed withdrawals of services on the 15th and the 24th of July, and I hope these further withdrawals can be avoided. Having undertaken to make progress on criminal legal aid in Budget 2024, Minister Helen McEntee did just that. As acknowledged by Senator Barry Ward, she secured €9 million to provide a 10% increase in criminal legal aid fees with effect from the 1st of January of this year. Minister McEntee has been equally clear regarding her intentions this year, advising the Dáil just last week that this crisis-era reduction should be restored. She will once again seek to make progress in this year's budget in relation to the restoration of criminal legal aid fees and is working to secure the remainder of the restoration of the fees, namely the 2 8% cuts within the context of the budget. As senators will be aware, we cannot make budget announcements months ahead of budget day, and there is a budgetary process which must be followed. As part of this work, the Department of Justice has commenced a review of criminal legal aid as linked to last year's 10% increase and as part of improving the overall system, which includes fees. A dedicated team of officials are currently working on the review and are laying the foundations for an improved, a more efficient system of administering criminal legal aid and intend to work collaboratively with all stakeholders. Indeed, the review and the modernisation of the criminal legal aid scheme was discussed with the Bar Council and Law Society when Department of Justice officials met with them recently. Their input is an important part of the process, and the Department of Justice will continue to engage with all relevant stakeholders, including the legal professions, on the modernisation and the funding of the legal aid system. To further modernise the criminal legal aid system, the general scheme of the Criminal Justice Legal Aid Bill 2023 was published in July of last year, and the key purpose of this bill is to transfer the administration of the criminal legal aid scheme to the Legal Aid Board and to otherwise update the administration of criminal legal aid. This bill will modernise the operation of the criminal legal aid scheme, introducing strengthened oversight and governance structures. It is Minister McEntee's intention that significant progress will be made on this as department officials continue to engage with legal professionals. The barristers and solicitors ensuring the fair and effective administration of criminal justice play a crucial part in our justice system. As I've already mentioned, Minister McEntee said last summer that she wanted to make progress on criminal legal aid in last year's budget, and she did that. Minister McEntee has been clear about her intentions to do that again this year. However, as I'm sure you can appreciate, nobody can make budget announcements months ahead of budget day. Minister McEntee and her department are committed to continuing to engage and to work with the legal professions and all relevant stakeholders to reach a resolution on this matter. And while I hope further withdrawals of services can be avoided, I understand from the court service that the absence of legal representatives for any reason, it is open to each court and judge to adjourn a matter to another date. The Department of Justice has been and will continue to engage with everybody, including legal professions, on the modernisation and funding of the legal aid system. And that really is the key message from Minister McEntee today.
Senator Ward.
Minister, thank you very much, and I appreciate your sincerity in this regard and what you said about recognising the importance of legal representatives and the role played by citizen barristers. I confess, speaking to them outside the courts this morning, they don't feel that that importance is recognised, and if a further withdrawal of services is to be avoided, there's a very simple way to do it. I recognise what you said about not making budget announcements, but the time is now to make that change. In reference to the Legal Aid Bill, the review of the criminal legal aid is fine, but the Justice Committee's report in the pre-legislative scrutiny was very clear that there is no basis for moving it out of the Department of Justice and into the Criminal Legal Aid Board, and that's something I hope will be taken into account in relation to that bill.
Minister, it needs to be emphasised of the fact that a perception is out there in the public of barristers being extremely well paid. A very, very small minority are extremely well paid. A very small minority. The vast majority are not. They struggle in the same way and in fact are in a life, no more than ourselves in politics, but even to a greater extent, of precariousness. You can have a situation where you work extremely hard, unpaid hours on a case, and by the time that case gets into court, you have other things going on. You have to hand it over to someone else to collect fees. All of that needs to be considered here and respected for the huge amount of the fact that they are the bulwark of our constitution.
Mila Buerkis, thank you. And Tara?
Gurmagat, senators, I hear what you're saying, absolutely, and I will absolutely bring this feedback back to the Minister for Justice. I suppose the main message really is that from a budgetary perspective, it's very difficult to make budgetary announcements ahead of budget day. I know you appreciate that, but I understand your sincerity on this, I understand your passion on this, and I understand that what you want to do here is really get to a resolution, and that is something that the Minister wants also.
Rita Bakers, thank you, Minister.